Hey everybody, this is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System. And I was going to go ahead and let um, cherry blossom season pass by, but it runs through May in some places in Japan. So I thought we would go ahead and do a piece that focuses on that because it's so pretty. It really is. It makes such a pretty piece. And it's really nice, something nice to have for spring, something a little flowery. So I thought we would go ahead and focus on cherry blossoms. We're going to make a little um, curved bar necklace with some little flower petals on it. And we're going to use a twisted wire technique that I've used in the past in different ways, but we're going to use this in clusters. So what we're going to need for that are our standard tools. We're going to use our round nose pliers. The pliers are the little arms here are round from bottom to top. They start a little wider at the bottom and taper up to almost a point near the tip. We're going to use our flat nose pliers. They're not actually flat or square. They're slightly rounded on the outside, but the inside is flat. And that's what gives them their that distinction. It's a little bit hard to tell if I tell people to pick up their round nose pliers, and sometimes they go for these because of the slight roundness on the outside. But if you hold them up next to the round pliers, you can definitely see the difference. When you buy these in the store, or even if you're ordering them online, take a close look at what's going on the inside, because some of them have grips, little ridges on the inside that are used to grip wire, but because we use very soft wire, you don't want those because it will mangle that wire. So be cautious of that. The third thing that we're going to need is a pair of cutters, just wire cutters. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to cut our wire and the chain that we're using for our necklace. We're going to be using memory wire for this. I'm using necklace memory wire. And this is probably beyond the three tools that we always use. The only other thing that I really advocate for, if you're using memory wire, you do need a pair of memory wire cutters, because if you use your regular cutters to cut memory wire a lot, you will ruin those cutters. They weren't made to cut this, which is tempered steel and very, very hard, and you will ruin them. So you may as well go ahead and invest in the memory wire cutters. They're not that expensive, and replacing your pliers and once you've broken them can be. So you may as well go ahead and invest in the memory wire cutters. When I first started, I didn't, because I thought, oh, that's just another thing that they want me to buy. Those others cut it just fine. And they did for a while until I ruined them. Then not only did I have to get the memory wire cutters, but I had to replace my others. I was not happy. Don't do that to yourself. What else do we need? We're going to be using 24 gauge wire because we're going to be doing a lot of wrapping. So we're going to use 24 gauge wire. We're going to use some chain. And mine is what is this 3 by 4 millimeter, but you can use any chain that you want. The little links on this are 3 by 4. We're going to use a couple of jump rings and a lobster clasp. That's it. Grab your ruler and let's get going. Let's get down here to the mat and let's get started. Okay, the first thing that we want is 5 inches of memory wire. We're making a little bar that's got a curve in it. And when you measure this out, those of you who get kits, it's already going to be measured out for you. But if you're doing this at home and you don't get a kit, what you want to do is take your memory wire and straighten it as much as you can without causing permanent damage, and measure about 5 inches. It'll spring back to its form once you're finished. And by the time you finish with this, you're going to want, it's going to be about 3.5 inches by the time you make the loops on each end and finish your pattern along the bar here. Once you're finished with that, what you can do is cut it down to 3.5 inches if you haven't got down there, because the loops are only going to take about 1/2 inch. So if you've got 5 inches, that's just going to take you down to 4 inches. And it just depends on how much more wrapping you want to do on each end. So you may need to cut it down a little bit more, but mine is going to go down to about 3.5 inches because that's where I want it to go. So what you're going to do is cut your little 5 inches of memory wire. Then you're going to grab your round nose pliers. You're going to slide that wire right here in between the jaws of your pliers. What you want is to go down about 1/4 inch. It doesn't need to be any more than that, about 1/8 to 1/4. And you want to slide that wire in there. Check to make sure that that you can't feel the tip on the other side, which I can. So I'm going to slide it back a little bit more. Now the placement on your wire is you want the wire to be curving downward, and you want the pliers to be horizontal across the top. So this is what I have. I don't want this curved over to the side. I want it um, horizontal. When my pliers are going one way horizontal, they go the other way horizontal. I want the tip to be curving down towards the mat and the pliers to be horizontal. Then I'm going to, after I've got my pliers situated in between the jaws, I'm going to start making my loop. Now I find the easiest way to do that is to get a very close hold on the wire and the pliers so that I have control. So I put my thumb on top of the wire right here beside the pliers where it's curved, and I put my forefinger just under the bottom arm of the pliers, and I hold on to it nice and close, and then I use my plier hand to make my loop. So I'm going to hold on to that. This is very strong wire. Like I said, it's not easy to manipulate, so you're going to have to really take control of it. So I'm holding on to that. I'm going to give it a small turn. And then without removing my wire, I'm going to open the pliers up, reposition them back towards my thumb, close back down, and give it another twist. And I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to do that several times until I get a loop closed up in here. And I'm pushing down on it also with my thumb just to give me a little bit more of a turn on here, because it's going to take several times. See, I've turned what, 5 times, and I'm only halfway there, or 2/3 of the way there. So nice grip, push down with your thumb, turn with your plier hand until that tip meets the rest of the wire. Then I have my loop. There we go. It's a little bit off to the side. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers. I want that tip to back right up against the other wire. I'm going to turn that until it's right against the other wire and not sticking out on either side. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just slide my wire in between my pliers, about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch from the tip, just enough to give myself a decent loop. Again, the wire is curving down towards my mat, and my pliers are going horizontal across. Check to make sure that the tip's not sticking out. Forefinger under the pliers, thumb on top of the wire. Oops, give it a sharp turn. Just one small turn. Without shifting the wire, I open the pliers up, reposition them back towards my thumb, clamp back down. And when I clamp back down, make sure there's no space. You don't want to clamp back down here. You want to make sure that you're right up against the curve of the wire. Give it another turn and keep doing that. Just small turns until that tip touches the rest of the wire. Now I know it's tempting to go, but when you do that, you lose control and your wire is going to end up all out of whack. So just be patient and just keep turning until you have your loop. See, again, several turns. I'm only at 2/3 of the way there, but I'm almost there. Just take your time and keep turning until that tip touches the rest of the wire. You don't want it to go past the wire. You just want it to touch. There we go. Nice. Then I check, I can feel that it's a little bit past the wire. My thumb is catching on it. I don't want that. I want it to rest right against the rest of the wire. I'm going to use my square pliers to manipulate that so that it's right here in the center of the rest of my wire and not on the side. There we go. Nice. So there's my little bar that I have to work with. So I'm going to grab some 24 gauge wire. I would suggest that you give yourself at least 20 to 24 inches of wire coil because you're going to be coiling it around this little bar, and it's almost impossible to tell exactly how much you need. Just approximately, I've measured it out to about a full inch for every 1/8 of an inch of coiling. So I use a full inch of wire and I only get this far. So you want to give yourself plenty of wire. You're going to be using the rest of it um, when you get ready to make your little clusters. So you may as well just keep it intact if you can, if you don't mind having all that wire sticking out while you're wrapping it. It's not really that much of a hassle. But it's better to have too much than too little. Cut off what you don't need and use it to make your little dangles. So I've got my nice long piece of wire. Again, I wouldn't go less than 20 inches. And if you don't mind at least 2 feet, I would do that. If you don't mind it again, just keep it intact because you're going to have a nice long piece or pieces of wire. So what I'm going to do is wrap. You want to decide which way is better to wrap for you. I wrap away from myself. So I'm back here, I wrap away. If it's easier for you to wrap towards you, then set it up like that. But because I wrap away from myself, what I'm going to do is poke the little tip of my wire into one of my loops. So I have something to hold on to. So I can hold on to that like that. The tip is pointing towards me, and then I can wrap away. Okay, so I'm holding on to that. And I'm going to start wrapping right there beside the loop. So there's my first wrap. And I'm just going to keep wrapping until as far as I want to go. And how many wraps you do is entirely up to you. I'm going to make several little loops that I'm going to use to hang dangles on. So you decide how many wraps you want. And I try to keep it as close together as I can get it. And if I can see where there's a lot of space in between my wires and I don't want that, I can take my pliers and squeeze those little spaces together. Now, this is a very organic project, so there's no perfection here. It's just we're making a little branch of cherry blossoms, so just think of it that way. Okay, so there's my first little round of coils, my first little row of coils. And now and how many? It's up to you. People always say, how many do you do? How many should I do? It doesn't really matter. It's entirely up to you how far you want to go. Again, I'm going to make 7 little loops here in order to put my dangles on. So That's what I'm basing it on. And once you get your 7 loops, you don't want to go too far because you've only got a certain amount of wire. Once you get your 7 loops and say you're that far away from the end, you might want to cut some of that off and re-loop it after you get the rest of your coiling done. But I've got my first little row of coils done. Now I want to make a loop in order to dangle my first little cluster of flowers. So what I'm going to do, instead of coiling it as close as I can get to the bar here, I'm going to leave some space and make a loop like so. And then once I make that loop, I'm going to go ahead and wrap tightly next to that loop on my little bar. Now, in order to keep this from closing up, because as soon as you start pulling and wrapping around the bar, this is going to try to close up the space. So what you can do is either hold it with your fingers or hold it with your pliers, nice and snug, and then wrap beside the pliers. It's kind of hard to see what you're doing because your pliers are in the way. But just take your time and bypass those pliers and wrap around there a couple of times. And once you get a couple of wraps on there, now it's safe. Now, in order to keep it from shifting, because as soon as I wrap, this is going to want to move. It's going to go, ooh, I'm going that way. You don't want it to do that. So what you want to do is put your thumb in front of it and hold it in place, and then continue your coiling. I'm going to keep on coiling, give it a few more coils. And I'm going to make another loop. Your loops do not have to be the exact same size. That's another thing. Again, very organic, no perfection. So I'm going to wrap that around. This time I'm just holding it with my fingers. Be careful, watch it, make sure it's not closing up. Get a couple of wraps in there. Check it out. See, they're not the same size. Doesn't matter. As long as you have a loop that will hold your dangles, you're fine. Make a few more wraps. Check it. See the little space in there. Let's fix that. I'm going to push them over here to my left. A little closer together. And just make sure everything looks the way I want it. And let's make another loop. Here we go. Yeah, there's another nice little loop. As I'm wrapping, I'm keeping an eye on that loop so it doesn't close up. I don't want to pull it closed by mistake. I did that the first time I tried this, and there's nothing I could do. It was closed. Push that together with my fingers. Okay, let's just keep going. And so now what I'm going to do is continue this off camera and come back and show you the finished product, or at least the finished bar. Okay, I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so here is my nicely wrapped little bar here. And I've got all my little loops that I'm gonna hang my dangles on. At this point, you can go through and make sure everything looks the way I want it. It's all hanging down the way I want it to hang. Make any adjustments I need to make. Pretty good to me. Yes. So now it's time to add my little dangles. So let's put this to the side. and grab some of these pretty little petals that I want to use. So what I'm going to do, some wire here. My little petals are going to take for each, we're going to make a little cluster. And I'm doing it with twisted wire. So for each one of these beads that I put on a cluster, I need 3 inches. That's my measurement. That way I have enough to work with. I don't have to struggle with it. It makes it easy for me to do what I want to do. So I have determined that 3 inches per bead is a good amount of wire. If you just do a two bead cluster, 6 inches. If you're just doing one bead, which isn't a cluster, just one bead, give yourself 3 inches. And you're going to have some waste on this, but there's really not much of a way around it. So what have I got here? I need 9 inches. I'm not sure I have it. This was left over from my little thing. I have almost about 7.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut myself a 9-inch piece of wire. Let's see if I have any left at the end of it. Okay, so 9 inches. Okay. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is go down here to, I'm going to put the little tips together, then go down here to the center. Cross my little wire over. And you can measure this if you want. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I'm probably going to see later that one of these little ends is longer than the other, but I can correct that. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so I'm going to pull it into a little loop. And I'm going to pop my round nose pliers in there. Give myself a little loop here, just like that. And I can see this side is longer than the other one. So I'm going to take away from that side and give it to the other side just to even that out. Get back in there, make my little loop. That's a little closer, still a little off. That's okay. That looks better. That's more even. So now I've got here a little loop down here at the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to grab my square pliers, hold on to the face of my loop. I call that flat part the face. And I'm going to give the wire a couple of twists. This is called an electrician twist, when you have the wires spread out and you twist them both at the exact same time. I don't want one wrapping around the other. I want them to twist together. So I'm going to give it one nice twist. That's a half turn, and then another half turn, and there's my little twist. Okay. So then I'm going to grab a pair of beads, one of my petals and one of my crystals. Oh, did I mention that we were using? I didn't. I'm using these little acrylic flower petal beads and some little 4mm crystals. These are rondelles, some little 4mm rondelles to create my little flower. So I'm going to put one of my petals on one of the wires. And one of my beads on the wire, like that. Then I'm going to take that nice strand of wire and I'm going to curve it around and I'm going to poke that little tip back through the petal hole. I need to bypass the bead and go back through that petal, just like that. And I'm going to push that wire all the way through. I use a push-pull motion because I find if I try to pull it all the way through, I end up with a point at the end that's really hard to get through. I use my fingers and my pliers. Once I get to a point where I can pull it, I'll take my pliers, place them right against the bead, and then pull the tail. Boom, just like that. Just pull it until I get as much of it through that little petal as I can. Now, you can't get it all through because I got these pliers in the little loop. So I need to get the rest of that through. So then what I'll do is turn it with the pliers until I can get as much down in there as I can. And then I'm going to put the pliers down and hold on to it with my fingers. I put my either your thumb or your forefinger on the wire and then the opposite under the bead. So if I have my forefinger on top of the bead and the wire, I'll put my thumb under the petal and hold on to it, just kind of sandwich it in. And then I'm going to pull the rest of the way as much as I can get down there. There we go. And if for some reason this is hard to do, because it can be, even though this is very soft and malleable, thin wire, you might want to use your pliers and you can just give it a good tug until you get that all the way through. So now I just have a little bit of wire down here, which is fine. I'm going to hold on to my bead and my petal so that they don't move. And I'm going to wrap that wire around that bare stem that's under the petal. Just wrap it around until I have a nice little coil there. There. There's my first little petal. And then I'm going to put the two wires together and I'm going to twist them and cross them over. And I'm going to twist them together. Just give them a few twists, holding on to both the loop and the bead so that they don't shift. The only thing I want to move is the wires. So I'm going to give them a nice electrician's twist again, and I'm going to twist 3 times. Yeah, let's make it 4. Give it a nice long stem. There we go. Now I'm going to make another, well, let's twist it around one more time because I want this to be here, I think. Yeah. So I'm going to make another little petal on this side. I'm going to take the longer wire. You're going to have one that's longer than the other because this is the one I use. The short one is the one that I use to make this petal. So I'm going to take the long one to put on another petal. So let's go ahead and grab another one. Let's get this nice bright red, bright bold red, and I'm going to put that on the long wire. Follow that with my 4mm crystal, and you can see where I'm going. I'm making a nice little cluster of beads that looks sort of like a flower, a tree limb. Yay. Okay, so again, I'm going to curve my wire around. I curve the wire around because I find that it's easier to do than if it's straight out here and I'm trying to curve it around from the tip. So I like to curve it around near the base, right there where the bead is. Give it a little curve. And now my tip is automatically finding its way down there. So I don't have as far to go. So again, I'm going to bypass my crystal, feed that tip of wire through the petal, and just push it down there. So I have a smaller loop, as much as I can. I like to push it. Good. Then I'm going to grab my round pliers, go down here as close as I can get to the crystal, and I'm going to pull that tail. Oh, wrong one. It's the other one. I'm going to pull that tail until I get as much of that wire in there as I can. And again, if it's too tough, grab your other pliers, give it a nice pull. Yay! There we go. Good. Now I'm going to wrap this tail around this coiled wire. I want to move this wire out of the way because we're not doing anything with that one. That is the one that we use to wrap the other one. I just want to move it out of my way, holding on to the petal and the bead at the top and the wire at the top with my thumb and forefinger. Just got it sandwiched in there. Move you out of the way. Move, move, move. Okay, I'm going to wrap that around just a couple of times. As a matter of fact, one time is probably enough. Let's give it one more. Now I have a nice little, what looks like a nice little tree limb. Here's my little cluster. Let's do one more. So I've got my wires crossed over again. I'm going to twist them together. Do my little electrician's twist. Nice and snug. Here I've got two good twists in there. And I'm going to do another cluster. So let's grab this pretty purplish pink one. This really dark red crystal. Curve my wire around again. You're going to be doing this many times, so you'll get used to it. Curve that wire around, bypass my crystal, and put it through my little petal hole. Push it down. Grab my round nose pliers. Get down in there. Put them nice and close to the bead and pull that little wire. This is not as long as the other one, so I don't have as much to hold on to. So I'm going to grab my pliers and pull. Push that down there a little bit further. Get it as far down in my little petal as I can go. Give it another tug. There we go. Good. Let's go a little bit further down in there. Push that in. Good, good, good. Yeah, let's wrap this little tail around that bare wire here, holding on to the bead and the petal. Wrap that around until the bare wire is covered up. And you can wrap it as many times as you want, really. You can really make it a nice little gnarled branch. It's up to you. There we go. So there's my little cluster of apple blossoms. Isn't that cute? Okay, so let's finish it off. I'm leaving this so that I can put a little dangle on it. And then at the top, I need to make a loop to attach to my bar. So what I'm going to do now is cut off one of these because I don't need them both. I need one to make a loop. So I'm going to cut off this short one. I always like more to work with. Cut this little short one off as close as I can get to my coils. Then I'm going to push that little tip down. I kind of like to come at it from behind. I think I have more control that way. Come on. Get down there. There. And then the other one, I'm going to make a loop. Yes. So there's the bottom, there's kind of the top. It doesn't have to be exactly at the top because these are movable. You can shift them around a little bit. It's supposed to be a tree branch, so again, no perfection. So now let's make a little loop. So I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. Doesn't need to be a huge loop. I'm going to slide that wire in between the jaws of my pliers down about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 to 1/4, depending on how big you want your loop to be. Doesn't have to be huge. I think I'm going to scoot it up a little bit away from my blossoms. I'm going to make my little loop. I'm going to take the wire, wrap it around the top bar of my pliers and just let it rest against the two bars. I don't want to wrap it around both of them. Then I'm going to hold on to everything, the beads, the wire, everything. And without shifting the wire, I'm going to open my pliers up, rotate away from myself, clamp back down, and bring that wire under the pliers, right there between the pliers and the loop. Yeah. Yeah. So now I have a little loop at the top. Now, before I go any further, because I have to close that up, I need to wrap that closed. But before I do that, I'm going to attach it to my bar. Where do I want you to go? This is my longer one. I decided to make one longer than all the rest. So I'm going to go right here in the middle. And I have seven little loops here. So I'm going to go to this one right in the center, and I'm going to slide that long strand of wire into the loop and let that pop right into the loop on my bar, just like that. Then I'm going to grab my pliers again, hold on to the loop on top of my beads. That's my clock saying, why are you taking so long? And I'm going to wrap that loop closed. So right here between the pliers and my beads, I'm going to wrap. And I gave myself a nice little extension of wire. So I'm going to wrap all the way down. All the way down that bare wire. So I have a nice little coil that matches up with the other coils on my tree limb. And it does not, it's again, it's a tree limb. It's supposed to be all gnarly looking. So not perfect. Not a perfectly perfect coil. Just a nice, neat, organic looking tree limb. And then once I've got that, oh, look at that, all nicely covered up, I'm going to cut that tail off as close as I can get to the coils. And then push that sharp tip down against the other coils. And if you're really good at it, you can push it down until it's kind of sandwiched in between the others. Just take your time. Check, make sure I don't feel anything scratchy. And there's my first little cluster. Isn't that cute? I like it. Now, I can leave it like that, but I have that little loop on the bottom. I can squeeze it closed if I want to. Um, get this. Yeah. I can leave it like that if I want to, or I can squeeze it closed with my pliers, or I can add another little dangle on there if I want to. That's up to me. I think I will. So I need about 3 inches. I'm going to keep this intact. May as well. No, not. I'm going to go ahead and cut my 3 inches off. Well, actually, for this, I'm not going to do the twisty thing. I'm just making a little dangle here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this intact and take my round nose pliers. If you want to cut it off, cut it down to 3 inches and you'll have plenty. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to grab the tip of my wire with my pliers. I'm going to slide it down about 1/8 of an inch because I'm just going to make a little coil here. And it doesn't need to be too big because I'm making myself a little head pin. So I'm going to rotate my plier hand until I have a little loop, like so. And then I'm going to keep rotating until I have a second loop beside the first loop. Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm going to just bend my wire up. So now I have a little platform for my little pedal bead to land on. And so I'm going to go ahead, put my little pedal on. That's going to slide right down there and sit on that coil. I can arrange it so it's right underneath. There we go. And add my little crystal. Those of you who get kits, you're going to get all different colors of crystals and petals and various shades of lilac and mauve and pink and red. Oops, it ran away. It said, I don't want to be part of this. You don't have a choice, little crystal. Okay, there we go. So arrange that there. Nice. And then I just need a loop on top to add to my vessel. So grab my round nose pliers, slide my plier in between my wire in between the pliers, bring the wire around to make a loop. I only go as far as I can go when I'm touching the side of my beads. Then I'm going to hold on to everything, the wire and the beads, open my pliers up, reposition them back towards my forefinger, and bring that wire in between the bead and the pliers until I have a loop, just like that. Then I'm going to add that to my little cluster. I'm going to slide that nice long tail of wire inside my loop and drop it inside the loop on my clusters. So one loop is inside the other. Then I'm going to grab my pliers, hold on to my bead loop, and wrap it closed right between the pliers and the bead. There we go. Let's cut that off. That tail, we don't need that. Be careful not to cut your loop. Snap that off. Push down that little tip against the other wires. No sharp edges sticking up. And there's my first little cluster. There. Now we're going to add clusters on either side. I'm going to go ahead. Let's see. Let's do this guy. I'm going to do a 2-bead cluster this time, just to show you the differences. I have a 3-bead cluster here. I'm going to do a 2-bead cluster on the side here. Since this is the center, I thought this would be nice if it was longer than all of the rest. So let's just go ahead and do a little 2-bead cluster. I need about, 6 inches for that. Do I have 6 inches left? Not quite, but close enough. I'm going for it. All right. So I'm going to go right here into the center. And again, you can measure if you really want to be accurate. Just measure it. How much did I end up with? It was almost 6. About 5 3/4. So I'm going to measure. Or you can just eyeball it right in the center. I'm going to grasp that center with my pliers and just cross them over, or you can just cross them over with your fingers just to form that little loop. There we go. And this is the bottom, in case you're wondering. This is the bottom. Then I'm going to grab the face of my loop with my pliers, give it a couple of twists. There's one of my little limbs down there. I'm going to grab a bead, put one of my petals on one of the wires, just slide that on, slide on a crystal after it, right down there inside the petal. If I can find the hole, if I can find the drill point, there it is. Slide that right in there, curve my wire around, bypass my crystal, feed it down into my little flower, my little petal bead, and push it down as much as I can. Yes, get down in there. Very nice. Get back in there. When I get to where I can't push it anymore, grab the tail and pull it. Now I need to get this guy back over here. He just decided he wanted to go to the other side of the wire, and that is not where you belong. So get back over there where you belong. Come on. Come on, come on. Yeah. So I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and push that bead as far down in my petal as I can. Grab the round nose pliers and put them right on top of that bead. Pull as much as I can pull it. And then I'm going to put my forefinger on the bead and the wire, my thumb under the petal until they're all sandwiched in, and then I'm going to pull it the rest of the way. And you can use your pliers here if you're more comfortable. And then once I've got that, as much as that wire tucked down into the petal as I can, I'm going to wrap just under the bead, avoiding the other wire. You don't want to catch that in there. So I'm holding on to everything, the bead, the petal, everything, so it doesn't shift, so it doesn't twirl around, which it will if you don't anchor it. And I'm going to wrap that wire around the bare wire a couple of times. And now you can do one of two things here. If you want a nice close cluster, one bead here and one bead right here, you don't have to do the twisting that I did. You can just have two nice close clusters. Let's do that. So I'm going to twist it one time, but that's it. Hold on to the bead and the wire with the loop and give it one little twist, nice and close. Then the long wire, I'm going to put another petal on and a crystal. Why are these little drill points giving me such a hard time today? There we go. So you can see that I have a nice close cluster. So again, I'm going to curve my wire around, poke that little tail through the flower, the little petal drill point, push that down through there. Get over here where you belong, little bead. Oh, you belong on the other side. No wonder you were over there. There. Okay, push that down as much as I can, and then pull it the rest of the way. I have a long stem here. Push that down. Let me go ahead and grab my round nose pliers. Hold on to the wire right here at the top of the bead. Pull. And if it's too tough to do with your fingers, usually, am I pulling the wrong one? I am. Cool. There we go. No wonder it was so hard to pull. I was pulling the wrong end. There we go. Pull it down. Push it down as much as you can get. There we go. I have a nice tight cluster. All I need to do is wrap that tail right here in between the beads and right under the bead that I just put on. And remember to ignore this other wire. You don't want to catch that up in your wrapping. You want to wrap on beside it. There we go. Very good. And now I'm going to wrap these two wires together a couple of times, right in between the two beads. Just give it a couple of twists, not wraps. Just twist those together. And if you need to, because it's such a small space, use your pliers. Give a gentle twist. There we go. Now all I need is a loop. And if you want a longer stem, you can give it another twist. There we go. Yeah. So now I just need a loop to attach to my bar. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. And again, if you want it longer, you want a longer stem, you can definitely do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this shorter one off and make a loop with the other one. Cut it off. Push down that little tip. Now the loop that you make with this, the wire coiling that you do is going to cover most of this up anyway, but I still like to push it down a little. Make my loop, grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire between the tips of the pliers, that down about an eighth to a quarter of an inch. Doesn't need to be a huge loop. Bring that wire over the top of the pliers and down the side. Hold on to my beads, open my pliers up, reposition them out of the way, and bring that wire across under my pliers, like so. Now I'm going to attach it to my next loop. Now I started in the middle. You can start from the side and just work to the other side. It's entirely up to you how you want to put this together. So as long as you get it there. Okay, slid my little open loop inside the closed one. Grab my pliers, my square pliers, hold on to the face of my flower loop and wrap a couple of times between the flowers and the pliers around that coiled limb. I'm calling it a tree limb because that's what it's supposed to be. And if it's too short to use your fingers, you can go ahead and use the pliers. I was about a little less than a half an inch shorter than the 6 inches that I needed, so mine is a little short. Okay, let's cut off that little tail that I don't need. Oh, I didn't cut it. I thought I did. Let's try that again. Once again. There we go. Push down that little tip. I like to take it from behind and work my way around the stem. And there's my second little cluster. And again, you can add another little dangle on this little loop if you want to. It's up to you. I'm going to continue to add the little clusters, and I will come back and show you how to finish it off. Woo, starting to look really cute. I'm going to add this little guy. Yeah, I'm going to add this kind of mauve-y colored one. I didn't realize that some of them came in a lilac color. I was looking at pictures and I thought maybe it was just how it looked on the screen, but no, they had a nice little list of the colors and what makes them the different colors. I guess it's the seasons, the way the soil is, all different things that you really probably don't care about. But let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and I will be back in just a few minutes to show you the almost finished piece. Okay, so here is my little bar with my cherry blossom clusters on it. Isn't that the cutest thing? So now all we need to do is put it on a chain and you are ready to go. So what I did was cut 18 inches of chain, and you can cut whatever length you want, but those of you who get kits, you're gonna have 18 inches of chain. And what you're gonna do is cut it in half. You're gonna cut it into two 9-inch pieces with your cutters, just like I've done here. Just two nice pieces, and we're going to attach it to our little bar. Now, how do we do that, you ask? What you're going to do is open up your little bar. So we're going to attach this right to the memory wire. So what I'm going to do is open this to the side. You don't want to pull it apart because it's going to be very hard very, very hard, very hard to get that back together if you do. So what I want to do is just open up a little bit to the side like that. So now I have a little opening in there, and I'm going to slide one of my chains, the last little, get in there. The last little link is going to go on my memory wire. Oh, I open it up a little bit more then. There we go. Then I'm going to close that up. Make sure it's completely closed so that my chain won't come back off. And I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Just twist it to the side. Take the other half of my chain, slide that last link on, and close it up. Make sure that's completely closed. A little tighter. I don't want there to be any chance that my chain will come off. There we go. And then on the other end, I'm going to add a couple of jump rings and a lobster clasp, and we are ready to go. Now, how do I open these jump rings, you ask? Okay, what I'm going to do is put my square pliers on one side of the opening, which is right here. And I'm going to put my thumb on the other opening, on the other side of the opening, and I'm going to twist. Boom, just like that. And now it's open so that I can slide that into the last link on the other side of my chain. And then I can twist it closed. Just make sure that those tips are flush together, no openings, and not overlapping. So let's do the other one. I showed you the plier thumb method. This time I'm going to show you. Put one plier on one side. And put your other plier on the other side. I find that it's easier when you're using the round nose pliers. Just trying to focus on everything. So I'm going to put this. It's going. I don't know what to focus on. It's on me, please. That's better. Not perfect. A little bit. Let's try this again. Okay, so I'm going to put the square pliers on one side and the round pliers on the other side and twist. There we go. Now notice how I have the square pliers are going horizontal one way and the round pliers are going horizontal up and down. One's going right and left, the other's going up and down, because if you turn the round pliers in, what happens is they end up slipping inside of your loop, and that can cause it to be to get a little mangled. So we don't want that. So let's go ahead and slide that last link of the other side of my chain inside this jump ring, add my little lobster clasp to it, and let's close it. And we're going to close it the same way we opened it. Square pliers on one side going aiming in towards the circle, the round pliers on the other side running along the side of my jump ring, and then twist. Twist it closed. There we go.
Nice.
There is our necklace. There it is. Wow, that really is cute. Okay, so let's put it on a nice little dress form or necklace form and see what it looks like. There it is. There's our little cluster necklace. And oh, I love the little dangles on the bottom because it looks like it's blowing in the wind. Oh, nice little breeze is blowing my little blossoms. Isn't that cute? I love it. Okay, there it is. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have had a chance to go look at the cherry blossoms. They don't last very long, so I mean, only a few days, I think. But in different parts of the country and different parts of the world, they come out at different times. I almost let this go because I thought, okay, well, they're gone here for the most part, but in different parts of Japan, they are still blooming. So we had to get our little part of it, and we just did. So there is our little piece. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you'll let us know one way or the other what you thought. If you want to get in contact with me, I usually spell everything out, but it's all down there in the comments of the YouTube of this tutorial. Right there in the description, it has the links to the library Facebook page. You are already on the YouTube page. You can look up more things at the DeKalb Library from this page. It has let's see. I think it has all the social media pages. And if it doesn't, I'll ask them to put them on there. But all the links that you need to get in contact with me at my email, they are in the description. The social media pages, really the Instagram page is wonderful too, because they have pictures of the different classes that we do and the things that people have made, which is a lot of fun. So go ahead and check all of that out. Follow us, subscribe. You'll be alerted when we have more classes and more tutorials that come up. And I would love to see it. I'd also love to hear from you. Send me your pictures, send me your comments. Get in touch with me on the Gmail, my Gmail, or on either the YouTube or Facebook pages. Until next time, that's it for this one. So I hope that you have a great week wherever you are in that week. You have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you later. Bye bye.